Trend, entries, and signals, and ultimately the VWAP is one of the only indicators that can actually give you all three of these. And it's also one of the only indicators that matters. So let's break down exactly what you need to know. Now look, we need to keep it pretty simple. When it comes to the foundation of our trading here, it's supply and demand and overall volume. That is it. That is what our bread and butter is. So when we're looking at VWAP, something that directly impacts and uses volume as an indicator, it's a given, it's something we must be using. And the first things we're gonna cover specifically with the VWAP is gonna be the trend, because ultimately the VWAP is gonna show you what big money is doing and when they are doing it.
So as we start looking at trends, we can look just at the VWAP and get an idea of where the day begins always. So we can see January 5th or 6th starts about right here, and then we move forward again. You can see the next day starts roughly here, which is gonna be the following Monday. Going forward, you can assume the next day starts here. And this is just over time of spending time watching this VWAP. I can tell you over and over again where these next days begin. But obviously for me, it's all based on the trend of what we're seeing. Now, when you're coming in, you can see that typically on the day, we don't flip-flop back and forth above and below the VWAP. Any time that happens, it's usually because volume does not coincide, and volume is going to be our best friend here.
Now, some notes before we go too much further. We need to understand that VWAP is important. It's showing us the trend, and it's telling us ultimately how a stock, equity, or index is moving throughout the day. But we need to understand a little bit more about it so we don't get tricked up in the market. As I said in the beginning, volume and supply and demand are our best friends. And the only one that really matters right now is gonna be volume. So if volume is below the 30-day average, then we tend to know VWAP may move a little bit more sporadically or chop sideways with overall movement. And that's not really where we wanna focus our trading. We wanna focus on good movement and where buyers are active or sellers, depending on what we are trading, up or to the downside. And above all else, our number one rule here on the channel, do not fight the trend, because ultimately that's what this VWAP is gonna show us.
So as we move back in, we can see we're clearly just trending as the next day above that VWAP going over. We have a little bit of a trend once again here in the morning underneath, and then following back through as we base on it, bouncing up, bouncing up. Now, as we can see here, what is going on? Typically, when we're above that VWAP, our trend is bullish, right? And basically what VWAP does, it's one of the few indicators that actually prices in our volume. And that's what makes it so important with spotting these trends. And that's why you're going to use it. We don't love using indicators that don't rely on volume. There's very few that we're ever going to use, only actually one, which is the 9 EMA. But besides that, VWAP is going to help us because it's relying directly on the volume that's pricing in on that specific day over and over. And it's always going to be a constant no matter what time frame we're looking at. So maybe even looking at the 15 minutes a little bit easier on the eyes, but you can also look at it on the 5 minutes to get intraday price action to find those entries, which we need to get into here in a sec.
Now we're gonna move more towards entries. And as we're looking at these entries, we already know our number one enemy when it comes to trading and even with the VWAP is going to be low volume. So when we're looking at the VWAP, specifically what I want you to be identifying and looking for when you're looking at entry opportunities is a volume increase near a touch of VWAP or the continuation of the move soon after. Let's get to it.
Now, as we look at Apple for some of these entry opportunities, what is happening specifically at the VWAP? 9 out of 10 times, this is going to be when a majority of intraday volume is occurring as you get closer to that line. This is a majority of buying, the average on the day. So when you come to something like the 1 minute and lower time frames, you're going to see that's where volume typically increases. Even if you're flipping a trend to the downside, that's when you're going to start noticing a bulk of your volume coming. Now, obviously, the first hour and last hour of the day give you the most volume, but intraday action, the VWAP is going to help you find those levels. So as we're looking here on Apple, this is going to be December 29th. You can see we kind of base here, getting a little bit of a flag, then bounce through. If you're looking to get back in, you almost get a touch right here around 9:45, bouncing back to the upside. Happens once again, you come down 3 touches, can't break below, confirming this is where buyers are holding you, and they're going to keep the trend going, and you bounce once again back up to around the 130 0.5 range once again until the following day happens as open, and you kind of flip and hold down below. But you can still see buyers try to hold this trend over the course of the next day as well, until eventually, as well, you can see buyers do in fact lose the trend as a whole going forward. But you can see you have plenty of opportunities for scalps along the way.
Now, in our final review, a few things we need to identify right now and be very clear about. The VWAP is not for longer term trades. It's not really even for swing trades. Now, it can show you the overall strength of a whole day, even if we have some sideways consolidation, which is something we're going to look at. But we really want to focus on VWAP trading for what's happening in the intraday action. Now, we know we get a bulk of that volume in the first hour and last hour, but in the in-between, the VWAP is very much so going to be the biggest underlying factor to showing us when volume is moving and when it is coming in, most of all, to make those intraday trades. Again, focus on the short term.
Now, this is just from 2 days ago on Thursday, and you can actually see what's actually taking place here. You can see we slowly start the day trickling up here on Microsoft, almost for a full trade day, just eking up the stairs, holding that trend. Now, sometimes you can actually follow the trend and then spot the breakout for the next day. So you clearly have an ascending triangle focusing and playing out here. And then you can see buyers continue to make higher lows throughout the day, really gravitating towards that VWAP. Now, the next day is where you get your opportunity. So you see we have a steep decline quickly regained by buyers. This is the 5-minute time frame, so you can see. You get that push up, failure, push right back down, and once you hit that VWAP there, that's your opportunity. As you can see, you hold out through going from 236 all the way back to local highs around almost 240. This plays out not once, but twice once again throughout the day before you start losing it back towards the downtrend. Again, we're looking at VWAP on smaller time frames for scalps. We're not going to be looking at the VWAP on longer time frames for swings. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
A few notes: continuation scalping, day trading, that's when you want to focus on the VWAP for trading. Now, you also want to know the VWAP is going to be a constant and it's going to be very reliable. It's never going to really fake you out or trick you in any type of trade. So understand past movements when you're looking at a specific equity, because it's not going to be constantly changing, which is again the name of the game, because we want to understand and have reliable tools to use. We don't want to be looking at things like the MACD that are constantly faking us out on different time frames. The VWAP again is a constant. So before I let you out of here, here's 3 things that I'd be looking for right now. You need to have clear targets when you're using the VWAP or you're trying to buy off of it. You need to be looking at previous reactions to the VWAP so you can see if you're getting good volatility off of it. And most of all, watch for the volume and really watch at previous reactions based on touches so you can understand the volume that precedes. That's all I got for today. See you next time.